Everyone knows you're the night market fried rice girl, the white moonlight who accompanied Adrian, that madman, through his 3 years of downfall. He values you more than his own life. Helping you fake your death to leave him is possible, but the risk is enormous. What's in it for me? Adrian's arch-rival Emmanuel took a sip of brandy, his gaze at Chloe filled with mockery. What you've always wanted, 30% of the Broderick family shares under my name. Chloe spoke in a hoarse voice with eerie calmness, as if discussing supermarket discounts. The condition is that before I leave, you arrange another abortion for me. The two sentences made the other person freeze abruptly, their mocking gaze instantly replaced by shock. Are you insane? Adrian has recently taken up with some little songbird, heard she was his former fiancée who turned to hostessing after her family went bankrupt. Who in high society doesn't have a pampered little lover they dote on. She poses no threat to Mrs. Broderick's position. So why should you care? Why bother? Chloe's lashes trembled slightly as the horrific image of her mother bleeding to death in agony on the operating table last night flashed through her mind. Her heart instantly wrenched as if stabbed by a knife. If you don't want it, I'll find someone else. A chill ran through her body as she rose to leave. Emmanuel quickly changed his tone and produced a share transfer agreement. 50 billion. The money will be wired to your account shortly. I'll arrange an accident so you can fake your death and disappear. As for the abortion procedure, Chloe signed the document decisively and walked out the door. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. As she grasped the doorknob, Emmanuel finally voiced the doubt in his heart. After all, it's your own child. How could you bear to? The question struck like a sledgehammer, crushing Chloe's heart into a bloody pulp. She froze in place, her face pale with pain, but ultimately said nothing as she pushed the door open and left. The forced composure crumbled the moment the elevator doors closed. 5 years ago, the Broderick family went bankrupt. Adrian's parents died tragically. Adrian was severely injured in an assassination attempt by enemies and fled to the slums, where he was rescued by Chloe, who was stir-frying rice on the street with her mute mother. Later, at the banquet celebrating the Broderick family's relisting, a wealthy heiress mocked Chloe for having an unfading smell of fried rice on her, and Adrian immediately cut off her nose. Just because Chloe was afraid of marriage, he proposed 99 times, gradually easing her worries. In the end, even Chloe's mom was moved to tears, urging her to say yes in sign language. 2 years into their marriage, she was spoiled like a princess by Adrian. Even Adrian's friends couldn't help but tease. Luckily my sister-in-law doesn't like stars, otherwise Adrian would have to learn rocket launching. Chloe thought her happiness would last forever, until 6 months ago, when she accidentally witnessed Adrian kissing his ex-fiancée Erin at the club. Facing her interrogation, Adrian's handsome features were hidden in shadows as his deep, sensual voice replied unhurriedly, Chloe. Even people in our circle need a change of taste sometimes. Chloe couldn't stop the tears from the pain. Let's get divorced. Adrian seemed to find it amusing, his thin lips curling into a wicked smile, brimming with possessiveness. Wife, I will never agree to this. You can only belong to me. Chloe still sent him the divorce papers 3 times regardless. After the first time, she was locked by a drunken Adrian in the master bedroom of the villa for 5 days and 4 nights, exhausting 10 bottles of intimate lubricant. After the second time, the Broderick family pressured every lawyer in the city, leaving no one daring to take her case. The third time she drafted an agreement herself, but got into a car accident on her way to see Adrian. When she opened her eyes again, the doctor told her she was 3 weeks pregnant. She touched her belly and finally gave in. Adrian also returned to his former self, deeply in love with Chloe. And no trace of Erin could be seen by his side. A trivial little thing. Adrian fed Chloe peeled green grapes with a smile, his tone icy with disdain. Yet during Chloe's mom's heart surgery, it was also him who diverted all the city's doctors for his so-called little thing, causing Chloe's mom to die on the spot. Chloe completely broke down. Stumbling forward, she went to find Adrian, only to hear a truth outside the hospital room that shattered her soul. Adrian, it's just my period cramps. No need for such a big fuss. Today is your mother-in-law's heart surgery. Shouldn't you be with your wife? She's still pregnant. Erin spoke in an increasingly faint voice, her almond-shaped eyes misty with tears. After all, the baby in my sister's belly is also my first child. Chloe's mind exploded with a deafening buzz. Adrian, whose usually stern eyes now held nothing but tenderness, cradled Erin gently as he soothed her. If it weren't for Chloe's fertility issues, you wouldn't have had to donate your eggs and undergo IVF with me just to help me keep her. Our Broderick family owes you a debt of gratitude. As for your mother-in-law, I've already arranged for the best doctors, no need to worry. Today, I'm all yours. Erin cheered and threw herself into his arms, acting coquettishly. Outside the hospital room, Chloe felt as if she had fallen into an icy abyss, her entire body trembling uncontrollably. So, the child she had been nurturing for 4 months was actually Adrian and Erin's. So, his attempt to keep her was just to make her give birth to a child that wasn't even related to her by blood. Adrian, how cruel you are. Her heart shattered piece by piece, Chloe staggered away. While following the nurse escorting her mother's white-shrouded body to the morgue, she brushed past Adrian, who was whispering into Erin's ear. Erin instinctively turned to look, but Adrian didn't even glance over. Merely covering her eyes tenderly while speaking coldly, "Dead man, filthy," 3 words, each piercing the heart. Chloe didn't even have the strength to question him. Her heart seemed to stop beating the moment she learned the whole truth. She never wanted to love Adrian again. The elevator stopped at the first floor, and the notification sound of 50 billion text messages jolted her out of her memories. She wiped away her tears and stepped out, but before she could steady herself, the cold barrel of a gun pressed against the back of her head. Adrian spoke in a dark, hoarse voice. "Wife, you secretly went to see my most despised business rival behind my back. I need an explanation." Chloe lowered her eyes, a surge of bitterness, resentment and absurdity welling up in her heart. So he also hates being betrayed, but he knew perfectly well, in her senior year of high school, Erin's older brother drunkenly crashed into and killed her father, who was running a street stall. Erin's family used their influence to get her brother acquitted. Erin herself, relying on her family's status, spread rumors in school that she was soliciting clients, targeted her at every turn, and even threatened to run over her mother. In the end, she was forced to give up her outstanding academic record and drop out, yet he still got involved with Erin. After the anger came a profound sense of helplessness. She lifted her eyelids to look at him, her tone numb and calm. "No explanation." Adrian startled, his pupils reflecting Chloe's pale face and red-rimmed eyes. His gaze softened abruptly as he casually tossed the gun to a nearby bodyguard. "I was just kidding." He pulled her into his embrace, his voice dripping with tenderness. "I know my wife loves me most. You came to Francis's place today just to spite me for not being by your side when your mother had that accident yesterday, right? It's all my fault, baby. To make amends, I've arranged a grand funeral for your mother. Let me take you there now." Her gaze fell on the ambiguous love bite on his neck. Chloe sneered coldly in her heart. She wanted to curse him for being unworthy of redemption, but in the end, she neither cried nor made a scene, simply following him into the car. She wanted to quietly accompany her mother on her final journey. As for Adrian, she would never want him again. The funeral site was already filled with many mourning guests. In the midst of the crowd, Erin wore a white flower in her hair and a light-colored long dress. Holding Chloe's mom's memorial photo with her almond-shaped eyes red from crying, Chloe heard her own teeth chattering as she stepped forward and snatched the memorial photo. "Who asked you to come? Get out." Erin shrank her shoulders and spoke timidly. "Sister-in-law, I came to apologize once more for what happened back then, to you and Auntie." Her voice choked with sobs, yet her gaze at Chloe was full of mockery. "Auntie lived a shabby life without enjoying much happiness before passing away. How pitiful," Chloe said coldly. "In that case, kneel down and kowtow 99 times to my mother." Erin's face stiffened, biting her lip. She looked at Adrian for help. "Adrian." Adrian responded with an icy tone. "Didn't you hear my wife? Get the hell out." His tone seemed disgusted, yet he completely ignored Chloe's request. Erin's starry eyes sparkled with excitement, her gaze at Chloe overflowing with provocation. Chloe laughed in anger. "Adrian, I said it, kowtow 99 times. Isn't she pretending to want redemption? I'm giving her the chance." She looked at Adrian, her tone resolute. Adrian also lowered his gaze to meet hers, his eyes a mix of helplessness and irritation. "I've also said, don't be too hard on a young girl. You wouldn't want to cause unpleasantness at mother's funeral, would you?" He was threatening her, for Erin's sake. Chloe's heart felt as if it were being squeezed by a giant hand, and she ultimately swallowed the bitterness in her throat. "Okay." Seeing her relent, Adrian frowned and quickly had his assistant take Erin away, unaware of the situation. The others present marveled at how Adrian cherished his wife above all else. Every word cut into Chloe's heart like a sharp blade, leaving it blooded and bruised. Throughout the entire ceremony, Chloe didn't exchange a single word with Adrian. Even when returning afterward, she deliberately avoided sharing a car with Adrian. What she didn't expect was that Adrian followed her anyway. He signaled the driver to leave and took the wheel himself. "Honey, we used to love driving along the riverbank at 3 in the morning after packing up our stall." The setting sun outlined his handsome profile with a radiant glow. Chloe felt her heart skip a beat as memories flooded back. Back then they were penniless, yet life felt warm and fulfilling. Once when packing up during a rainstorm, their stall van broke down. Chloe had fallen asleep in the passenger seat during her period. Adrian didn't wake her up, after sticking a heating pad on her belly. He wrapped her tightly in a raincoat and stubbornly carried her on his back for 4 hours all the way home. When Chloe later woke up and discovered he developed a high fever from getting drenched, she was furious, calling him an idiot. There was clearly an umbrella in the car. You should have gone home first. His cheeks were flushed with fever, yet his eyes sparkled brightly like a puppy's. But Adrian would never leave Chloe alone on the spot. The screeching of brakes startled the dozing Chloe awake, yet before she could open her eyes, the vehicle made another violent right swerve. Chloe's passenger seat crashed heavily into another truck that was charging toward pedestrians ahead. After the violent impact, Chloe raised her head sluggishly, revealing a blooded forehead. In her crimson-hued vision, the one who had promised never to abandon her, Adrian, didn't even glance her way as he rushed anxiously from the driver's seat. He picked up the pale-faced, unconscious Erin and strode away. Her long-dead heart ached once more as Chloe, enduring excruciating abdominal pain, maneuvered around the twisted passenger door and staggered out from the driver's side. The truck driver, who had been furious moments earlier, was startled by her blood-covered face. "Miss, are you all right?" Even strangers cared about her, yet her husband had completely forgotten her. She watched Adrian's receding figure, her voice hoarse and desperate. "Please, call an ambulance for me." As the words fell, she could hold on no longer. Her body went limp as she fainted. Chloe woke up with a dull ache still throbbing beneath the bandages on her forehead. She lowered her gaze to touch her slightly rounded abdomen, then casually pulled out the 4-needle and got up to leave the room. But as she passed the stairwell, she overheard Adrian's best friend, the deputy director, urging him in a hushed voice, "Adrian, Erin just fainted from low blood sugar today, yet you abandoned your wife to take care of her. Do you realize your wife's baby would have been lost if she'd arrived half an hour later? Are you really falling for Erin? Have you forgotten that Chloe's family was destroyed by Erin's family? How can you face your sister-in-law?" Adrian's tall figure lurked in the shadows, the glowing tip of his cigarette flickering, making his narrow eyes appear even darker. "I can't let go of Erin. She's the child's birth mother." His tone was chillingly calm. "I love Chloe, but Erin has loved me for 8 years. She was indeed young and impulsive when she made mistakes, and now that the Erin family has gone bankrupt, the price has been paid. Besides, Erin never intended to compete with Chloe for anything. I gave Chloe the status and power of Mrs. Broderick, while making Erin's child my heir. It's fair." His best friend was momentarily speechless. "So that's why you deliberately ordered the doctor to perform 5 consecutive uterine scrapings on your wife before the IVF procedure. Any miscarriage would lead to massive bleeding, and she wouldn't even be able to keep her uterus. Even if she later finds out the truth and wants an abortion, it'll be impossible by then. But have you ever considered that when she does learn the truth, even if she can never bear children again, she might leave you forever?" Another bloody truth came crashing down on Chloe's already battered heart, smashing it into a pulp. She stood frozen in place, her mind completely blank. She never expected that Adrian would ruthlessly cut off her last escape route. Trembling with rage, she halted her steps to confront him the moment she clearly heard Adrian's words. "Chloe won't leave me." Adrian curled his lips in a smirk, his tone obsessive yet confident. "Her mother is already dead. I'm her last remaining family in this world, and unless I die, I'll never let go." A chill ran from the soles of her feet to the crown of her head as Chloe suddenly realized Adrian was truly insane. She had to pretend she knew nothing and quietly leave. She forced herself back to the hospital room just in time to see the nurse coming to change her dressing. Your wound has stopped bleeding, but we still need to do a CT scan for follow-up." Chloe didn't think much of it. She followed the nurse to the MRI room. But as soon as she lay down, she was locked onto the resonance bed. Then they stuffed a wad of gauze into her mouth, pushed her into the narrow, claustrophobic machine, and left her there on her own. Chloe felt her heart sink as she realized something was wrong, but when she desperately struggled and cried for help, she heard the nurse lock the door and warn others not to approach as the examination room was under maintenance. In an instant, the vast dim room was left with only Chloe herself. A suffocating sense of claustrophobic dread enveloped her like tidal waves. The bone-deep terror made her bound and rigid body tremble uncontrollably. It was as if she had returned to her senior year of high school, when Erin and her clique stripped her naked, doused her in foul-smelling slop, and locked her in the metal coffin of the school's third-floor basement dissection room. She was imprisoned for 3 days and 3 nights. Since then, she had developed severe claustrophobia. 4 years ago, Adrian spent half a year's savings to take her to a psychiatrist, finally helping her overcome the psychological shadows of her girlhood. Now, she only feels like she's back in that narrow coffin again, with rapid breathing and clammy sweat nearly suffocating her. What's even more despairing is the dull ache in her lower abdomen and the unbearable urge to urinate that she can't ignore. It wasn't until 17 hours of being trapped that the on-duty doctor, noticing something amiss, finally opened the door and rescued her. Under the glaring lights, the severely dehydrated Chloe felt dizzy. Her lower body was so numb she couldn't even stand steadily, barely propping herself against the wall. Amidst the surrounding noise, someone burst out laughing. "Oh my God, she wet herself, how disgusting." The familiar sharp female voice struck like a slap, jolting the dazed Chloe awake. She turned toward the sound. Meeting Erin's triumphant gaze, Erin stood before her, every hair perfectly styled, her smile radiant yet venomous. "While you were howling and begging like a dog, Adrian was with me." As soon as these words were spoken, Chloe immediately realized she was behind everything. Shame mixed with anger flushed her eyes red as she turned and snapped at the other doctors and nurses watching the spectacle. "I am the wife of the CEO of the Broderick family group, your hospital's largest shareholder. Call the police immediately. I demand serious consequences for your hospital's negligence last night." At these words, the previously smug Erin instantly panicked, yet at this moment, Adrian appeared with his bodyguards, and within moments, the area was cleared. Adrian shielded Erin behind him, watching as Chloe was forcibly pinned into a wheelchair by the bodyguards. He looked at Chloe, his brow heavy with menace, and sighed helplessly. "It's just a little girl's prank, no need to take it so seriously." Even though she had long been disappointed in him, Chloe was still utterly wounded by these words. Her laughter gradually turned into reddened eyes. "Adrian, today you must choose between me and her." After 5 years of love, Adrian saw for the first time such a look of utter despair and withering despair on her face. As if she no longer had any attachment to this world, Adrian's pupils trembled slightly, yet his blurted reply carried a chill. "Be good now, don't be willful. With me here, no police station would dare take this case." With that single sentence, Chloe's last shred of hope was shattered. She laughed in extreme anger. "What if I insist on an answer today?" Adrian flashed a helpless look in his profound eyes. "You wouldn't dare." As his words fell, the bodyguard behind him walked to the window, lifted the black cloth in his arms, and revealed Chloe's mom's urn. Chloe's fingertips dug deep into her palms, the pain making her soul tremble. "You're using my mother to threaten me." Adrian's eyes darkened with a gloomy intensity. Yet his movements were tender as he walked over to Chloe and draped a blanket over her. "Don't touch me." Chloe slapped him hard, her voice trembling with anguish. "Adrian, I should never have saved you back then. I regret falling in love with you." Adrian, who had been hit, showed no anger, his movements of tucking in the blanket remaining gentle. Yet upon hearing Chloe's words, the gloom between his brows instantly darkened like ink, and the chill around him almost froze into frost. "Wife, be a good Mrs. Broderick, and never think of leaving me." Chloe heard Adrian whisper in her ear like a lover. "As punishment, you're grounded for the next week. Stay in the villa and recover properly. Escort the madam home." Chloe had all her electronic devices confiscated. Bodyguards watched her 24/7, constantly reporting Adrian and Erin's whereabouts, as if to provoke her. During these 7 days, Adrian and Erin did everything a couple should do. Erin loved roses. So Adrian bought 99,000 roses from around the world just to build her a rose castle. The Broderick family had her ancestral rule against tattoos, yet when Erin merely liked a photo of a tattoo design, Adrian immediately had that very pattern inked over his heart. They kissed on the shore at the edge of the world, deep in the rainforest. The naming rights of a newborn elephant were purchased by Adrian, who named it Erin, while the bodyguard reported these details. Chloe was busy throwing things around the villa. On the first day, she took all the custom-made gowns worth hundreds of millions that Adrian had commissioned and burned them. On the second day, she had someone cut down the peach tree in the courtyard that bore their love knot and dug up the lily field Adrian had personally planted. On the third day, she threw all the couple's gifts from over the years into the shredder. That night, Adrian returned to the villa, his tall figure, wrapped in a trench coat, swept in with a chill. His eyes were icy as he casually slammed a diamond necklace onto the dining table. Adrian mocked, "Chloe, Erin and I are just having fun. I'll naturally come back to the family when I'm done playing around. Why must you throw a tantrum and force me to come back now?" Chloe finished the last wonton her mother had made before passing away, speaking in a calm tone. "This is the necklace Erin doesn't like, isn't it?" Erin added her on a secondary account. These days, Chloe knew the details of their relationship more intimately than any bodyguard could. No sooner had Erin posted on her moments complaining that the necklace was outdated and only suited for middle-aged women, than Adrian took it back and gave it to her. "So what?" Adrian let out a mocking laugh, his dark eyes as deep and cold as a frozen pool. Have you forgotten you're just a stir-fried rice girl who didn't even finish high school? Now that you're living the life of a wealthy madam thanks to me, what exactly are you still being so pretentious about?" Her long-dead heart was pierced by a sharp sword once more, the pain turning Chloe's face deathly pale. Her lips trembled, but her throat was so tight she couldn't utter a single word. Back then, when those wealthy kids mocked her background, it was he who swore he didn't care in the slightest. Now, his words must be the truth. He had looked down on her all along. She was nothing but a caged bird he kept. The ringing phone shattered the suffocating atmosphere between them. The moment he saw the caller's name, Adrian, his gaze softened. "Erin." From the other end of the phone, Erin's coquettish, high-pitched voice came through clearly. "Adrian, my knee still hurts so much. I just looked and it's all scraped. It's all your fault for wanting excitement, insisting we do it in front of your sister-in-law's mother's grave." Chloe's last thread of composure snapped completely. Shaking with rage, she lifted her hand and smashed the vase on the dining table to the ground. "Damn couple, get out." The thought that even after death, her mother would still be humiliated by the son-in-law she once loved most, Chloe left her with nothing but utter despair. If only she had known. If only she had known. "I should have let you die in that alley back then." Her eyes were bloodshot, her frail body no longer able to stand steady. The next second, she fainted amidst Adrian's stunned expression. Chloe had merely fainted from low blood sugar and emotional distress. Yet Adrian summoned every doctor in the city for her. Facing the déjà vu scene, Chloe felt no emotion but disgust. For these 2 days, Adrian had barely left Chloe's side. Chloe ignored him. So he gloomily forced Erin to apologize to her. "Sis, I'm sorry. I was just joking with Adrian that day," Erin said with obvious reluctance in her voice. Chloe merely gave her a cold glance before turning to leave by car. Adrian dared not stop her, and could only follow behind in another vehicle. Chloe sold all the jewelry Adrian had given her over the years for anniversaries at bargain prices to second-hand dealers. Emmanuel said that on the day of the fake death, she couldn't take any items related to her current identity, so she had to cash them out. While Chloe was selling items one by one up front, Adrian followed behind, buying them one by one, until he saw the engagement ring he had personally designed 2 years ago in the hands of a beggar. He finally sensed something was wrong and stopped Chloe. "Honey, are you really short on money lately?" Chloe said faintly. "Doing charity. Bless me for the rest of my life, that I may never see you again." Adrian sighed in relief after hearing this. "There happens to be a charity banquet at Blue Mountain Club tonight at 7. I originally declined on your behalf, but several of your close friends will be there too. Would you like to go and chat with them?" Chloe initially wanted to refuse, but those few girls were among the rare ones who had shown her kindness after she entered high society. Before leaving, she ought to say her goodbyes. That evening, Chloe and Adrian arrived at Blue Mountain Club by car together, during which Erin sent him hundreds of messages. He observed Chloe's expression but did not respond. At the banquet, Adrian remained by Chloe's side the entire time, completely ignoring Erin, who was silently weeping while staring at him from a distance. Chloe paid no mind and went straight to catch up with a few old friends. The banquet ended late at night, and on the way home, Adrian received a call from the venue staff. "Adrian, something terrible happened. Miss Erin got drunk and accidentally fell into the pool. She's unconscious." The words instantly changed Adrian's expression. "I'm coming right now." Hanging up, he turned directly to Chloe and said, "Honey, I'll have another driver pick you up. Wait here for a while." He was about to pull her out of the car. Chloe stared back at him and asked, "Can't you fit one more person?" Adrian flashed a hint of guilt in his deep-set eyes but persisted, "You've never liked Erin. And now she's drunk again. I'm worried she might vomit in the car and annoy you. Another driver will be here in 5 minutes. You should go home and rest first." With that, he forcibly pulled Chloe out of the car, then shut the door and drove off, leaving Chloe standing there, her eyes full of irony. He thought he was hiding it well, but little did he know that half an hour earlier, Erin had already sent her a provocative message from a burner account. "Adrian was only pretending to be nice to you to protect me from your bullying. Tonight, he said he'd deliberately collude with the venue staff to put on an act, ditch you halfway, and come back to pick me up for our anniversary celebration." Accompanying the provocative message were dozens of steamy photos of her and Adrian kissing and entangled. "These past few days, Adrian only came to me after you fell asleep. Sometimes would even, right by your bedside after you took sleeping pills. Who asked you to always lie there like a dead fish in bed? Only I can make him feel like he's in heaven." Now seeing these messages, Chloe felt nothing but cold laughter and disdain in her heart. But the next second, Chloe was suddenly grabbed by a tall, masked man who covered her nose and dragged her into the nearby bushes. Taller than a person, the man acted ruthlessly and decisively, before she could scream for help. He raised the hammer in his hand and struck her swollen belly with brutal force. A single blow left Chloe in too much pain to make a sound, and a rush of warmth instantly spread beneath her. Seeing the man still refusing to stop, he continued smashing down violently, 13 brutal hammer strikes in total. By the end, Chloe's abdomen was nearly caved in, with shattered ribs even piercing through her flesh. Only then did the man finally feel satisfied. Leaning down to Chloe's ear, her pupils already dilated, he laughed maniacally. "Back then I was the one who ran over your damn old man with my car, and now I get to personally exterminate the little bastard in your belly too. How fucking satisfying, ah ha ha. I'm sparing your life as a warning. You were born with the lowly fate of a poor wretch. You'll never be a nobleman's wife, nor will you ever steal a man from my sister. The Broderick family heir can only come from her womb." In her dazed state, Chloe heard the distant yet close cacophony of noise and alarms ringing in her ears. She seemed to have been rescued by passers-by and taken to the hospital. Unable to make out what the doctors were saying, she only heard Adrian's hysterical roar, "Save both the child and the mother." His eyes were filled with panic, his meticulously styled hair now drenched in sweat and disheveled in utter disarray. Chloe hadn't seen him in such a pitiful state for a long time. Noticing Chloe looking at him, Adrian with reddened eyes was about to step forward to check on Chloe's condition when bodyguards rushing over stopped him. "It's terrible, Adrian. Miss Erin, overwhelmed with guilt upon hearing about Madam's accident, has taken pills to end her life." A single sentence made Adrian turn pale. He no longer cared about Chloe and turned to leave without hesitation. As soon as he left, Chloe clutched the doctor's white coat with all her might, using the last of her strength to plead before darkness consumed her consciousness. "No more. I don't want the child or my uterus anymore." Chloe woke in pain just as Adrian's close friend and deputy director Ivan finished changing her wound dressing. Her gaze calmly swept over the 30-centimeter scar that marred her flat abdomen. Chloe spoke hoarsely. "Does Adrian know?" Ivan looked guilty, searching for an excuse but deflated when he met her clear-eyed stare. He shook his head. Erin swallowed a whole bottle of sleeping pills. After being rescued, she kept crying. Adrian was afraid she might try something foolish again, so he stayed by her side and couldn't come to see you. Couldn't he even call to ask? Chloe found it ridiculous but couldn't be bothered to argue anymore. "About the child, could you please tell him the day after tomorrow?" She had just received Emmanuel's message. The feigned death was scheduled for tomorrow at midnight. Ivan didn't think too much about it. After agreeing, he left. Not long after, Adrian burst in breathlessly and hugged Chloe tightly. "Honey, I almost thought I was going to lose you." He trembled with excitement, his voice ecstatic. "Thank goodness you and the baby are both safe." With that, he raised his hand to lift Chloe's hospital gown to examine her, but she pushed him away. He thought Chloe was still sulking, and patiently explained, "These days I've really been neglecting you, so I've cleared my schedule for the next month to focus on accompanying you for a vacation and recovery. Is there anywhere you'd like to go?" Chloe recalled the several fake death location options Emmanuel had provided, and her heart stirred. "I'd like to take that cruise ship we went on for our honeymoon." She gazed out the window, her black hair clinging to her gaunt cheeks. Speaking in a very soft voice, the next evening, Adrian wheeled Chloe onto the ship in her wheelchair. This cruise ship was originally custom-built by Adrian specifically for Chloe. Now, besides essential crew members, there were over 1,000 professional performers on board solely to entertain Chloe. Soon to fake her death and leave, Chloe was in high spirits, attentively watching performance after performance. Seeing her happy, Adrian waved his hand grandly, awarding each performer a bonus of 100,000. The entire theater instantly erupted into a wave of cheers. At 9:30 in the evening, Adrian wheeled Chloe back to the top-floor presidential suite. As they passed through the corridor, they encountered the ship's captain who had been waiting there. He spoke with utmost respect. "Adrian, we must depart now to catch the sea fireworks display you arranged for your wife." Adrian nodded. "Let's go." Yet the next second, his personal bodyguard came striding over with a grim expression, phone in hand, and whispered in his ear, "Miss Erin is missing. The suspect's build resembles the one who harmed Madam that day." A nurse witnessed someone from the Francis family lurking near the hospital. Adrian subconsciously moved to leave, then abruptly halted upon remembering Chloe behind him. "Go to her," Chloe urged him instead. For the first time in so long, she flashed him that radiant, sunlit smile again. Just like when they were deeply in love, Adrian suddenly reddened around the eyes, his Adam's apple bobbing as he finally made a promise. "This is the last time. Once you've recovered, I'll send Erin abroad. From then on, it'll be just the two of us." Chloe nodded, until Adrian left. The smile in her eyes vanished instantly. "Adrian, for us two, there is no future." Adrian mobilized almost the entire city's police force and finally rescued the kidnapped Erin in a forest cabin 40 kilometers from the port. Just minutes later, photos of him carrying Erin in his arms onto the helicopter topped the trending charts. 10 minutes before departure, Chloe dismissed her bodyguards by claiming she was hungry. 5 minutes before departure, Chloe neatly placed the termination of pregnancy consent form, 2 torn marriage certificates, and a USB drive containing the truth about her mother's death on the coffee table in the suite. 3 minutes before departure, Chloe recorded a video on her phone that would be sent to Adrian at a scheduled time. 1 minute before departure, Chloe stepped onto the deserted deck, where the sea breeze swept through, sending her black hair dancing. She lifted her white dress and climbed barefoot onto the ship's railing, gazing at the dark, turbulent waves below. She felt an unexpected lightness in her body. As the midnight bell tolled, Chloe fell backward. At the same moment, fireworks burst across the sky in a dazzling display. The dazzling fireworks and Chloe's frail, falling figure were both reflected in the pupils of Adrian, who was speeding toward the cruise ship on a speedboat not far away. A single glance shattered his soul. No, 2 hours earlier, the scenery outside the window receded rapidly. Adrian sat in the back, staring at his phone in thought. His mind was a mess, his heart in a panic. His phone screen displayed his chat with Chloe. Only now did a sudden realization hit him. It seemed to have started half a month ago. On the day Chloe's mom passed away, his conversations with Chloe had become pitifully scarce. Moreover, she almost never initiated contact with him. Distance and indifference had been Chloe's most frequent state during this period. Just now in the corridor, her face was so pale it seemed almost translucent, yet she gave him the first genuine smile she'd offered in all this time. Adrian raised his hand to his pounding chest as memories instantly transported him back to that near-death midnight 5 years ago. Back then, he had witnessed his parents being murdered by kidnappers with his own eyes, dragging his severely injured body out of the mountains. He had intended to contact his former close brothers, but his blood-drained body couldn't hold on any longer, collapsing at the entrance of a filthy slum alley, just when he thought he would die in that wretched place. Chloe appeared. She wore an old man's shirt, her dark hair casually tied up, revealing a small, fair, makeup-free face. She didn't possess the delicate, pampered beauty of the wealthy young ladies Adrian had known since childhood, but rather resembled a solitary lily, so beautiful it made his heart flutter. She saved him. She encouraged him to start another business. Falling in love with Chloe was the most natural thing in the world. Adrian had thanked his lucky stars 1,000 times that he met her before those filthy, despicable rich kids did. He once vowed to cherish this little lily he had tenderly nurtured for a lifetime. But later, Adrian, according to the clues provided by the police, Miss Erin's last known location was here. The assistant's words interrupted Adrian's contemplation. The Maybach came to a stop at the foot of the mountain, where over a dozen police cars and dozens of reporters frantically recording had already been waiting. Adrian felt his eyelids twitching violently, his voice hoarse and dry before he even realized it. Who arranged this? Didn't I say we needed to keep a low profile and avoid making headlines or trending topics? If this trends, Chloe will see it. He didn't want to make her jealous anymore. His chest suddenly tightened. Adrian irritably ground his molars, loosening with one hand the tie that Chloe had tied for him this morning, then flicking it aside with a casual wave. Drive away all those gossip-hungry reporters. The assistant was shocked. But Adrian, you personally signed these long-term contracts with the media, saying any news related to Miss Erin must be pushed to trending to grow her fanbase. Adrian froze, finally realizing that was right after he first got involved with Erin. Back then, he'd already been married to Chloe for 2 years, drowning in endless drinking parties every day, gradually growing annoyed by how Chloe constantly nagged him. In his heart, Chloe was beautiful with a great figure, but she was just too dull in bed, shy and old-fashioned. She refused to try many positions. Adrian was in his prime, full of vigor, often left so frustrated he had to take matters into his own hands. Over time, he grew tired of it and couldn't be bothered to go home. He often used the excuse of discussing business with his brothers to sleep at the club. That night, he had just closed a big deal. It was already late, and not wanting to disturb Chloe's rest, he returned to the club again. There, he happened to encounter Erin, who had been drugged. Over the years, the two families had lost contact, but they had once been on good terms, so Adrian saved her without a second thought. When he learned her family was bankrupt and she was short on money, he arranged for her to work as a secretary at the club. Erin was clever and endearing, always looking at him with a flattering eagerness that wasn't present in Chloe's eyes. This subconsciously pleased Adrian greatly. Before long, the two ended up in bed together. At first, Adrian felt somewhat flustered. But Erin was tactful and proactively said she would only be a little sparrow, never competing for Mrs. Broderick's position. Adrian was pleased. Coincidentally, she had an account with a few thousand followers at the time, so he casually instructed his assistant to ensure any news related to Erin would be promoted to trending. Later, photos of him accompanying Erin on an overseas trip seemed to have made it to the trending topics too, and he specifically had his bodyguard inform Erin about it. But back then, it was just to spite her. He was angry that she refused to yield to him. Now he had made up his mind to cut ties with Erin for good, no matter what. The rumors about him and Erin couldn't reach Chloe again. She had suffered so much and barely managed to keep the baby. She couldn't endure any more distress. At this thought, he furrowed his brows and said in a low voice, "Terminate all contracts. From now on, no media outlet is allowed to report anything about me and Erin." The assistant hurriedly dispersed the media present. Adrian calculated the time, wanting to return to the ship by midnight to watch the fireworks with Chloe. Fortunately, the rescue of Erin went smoothly, almost suspiciously smooth. When found, the kidnappers had already left, while Erin lay on the floor of a small cabin deep in the forest, bound hand and foot, covered in blood. After being rescued, Erin threw herself into Adrian's arms, crying so hard she nearly passed out from lack of oxygen. "Adrian, I thought I'd never see you again. I was so scared." In the past, seeing her cry would always make Adrian's heart ache. But now he felt no urge to comfort the weeping beauty. It was already 10:50 at night. There was almost no time left. He frowned and pushed Erin away from his embrace. "I'll have someone take you to the hospital. The helicopter is ready." Erin clutched at him desperately, refusing to let go. "No. Adrian, I'm too scared. I need you with me." Seeing Adrian's expression gradually darken with impatience, she gritted her teeth, forced out tears, and pretended to be utterly terrified. "Before I passed out, I accidentally pulled off the kidnapper's mask. I think I still remember what he looked like." Adrian immediately turned serious, carrying her as they boarded the helicopter with the police. Yet he remained completely unaware that his photo had already been taken by someone in the crowd and had gone viral. After completing the police statement and sending Erin to the hospital, it was already 11:30 p.m. Adrian looked extremely grim, forcing his assistant to urge the yacht captain to speed up. Fortunately, during this time, the bodyguards watching over Chloe had been sending Adrian real-time updates. Chloe remained in a calm state throughout, gazing at the gentle profile of someone quietly reading with lowered eyes on his phone. Adrian softened his gaze. He suddenly missed her terribly. Faster. Amid the roaring engine noise, Adrian's voice was deep and commanding. Yet just when they were less than a kilometer from the cruise ship, an inexplicably thick fog suddenly rose from the sea surface. The sudden fog instantly blocked the view of everyone on the yacht, even causing the navigation system to malfunction inexplicably several times. Fortunately, after a few minutes, the thick fog finally dissipated, revealing the side of another yacht less than 20 meters away. The assistant quickly grabbed the walkie-talkie to contact the crew and have the boarding ladder lowered. At that moment, a slender figure on the deck caught Adrian's attention. It was Chloe. The sea breeze lifted her black hair, revealing her calm eyes. Adrian suddenly felt his heart in turmoil. "Chloe," but the strong wind carried away his heart-wrenching cry before it could reach Chloe's ears. He could only watch helplessly as Chloe lifted her white dress and climbed barefoot onto the ship's railing. His heart felt as if struck by a hammer. A wild guess from Don sent a chilling numbness through his entire body. "Send someone to the deck. Drag her back." Now, Adrian was going mad, his gaze fixed desperately on the teetering figure at the ship's railing, his voice filled with nothing but despair. The next moment, Chloe on the ship seemed to have noticed him. She looked at him, distantly, flashing a radiant smile. Just like when they were deeply in love. Bang! Fireworks rose to illuminate the deep blue night sky. Chloe fell gracefully like a snowflake, shattering Adrian's heart. "No." His face turned deathly pale in an instant, his crimson eyes filled with nothing but despair. Almost instinctively, he leaped into the sea, swimming frantically toward the spot where Chloe had fallen. The water was icy and piercing, the underwater vision dim, yet Adrian could see only that slender figure sinking into the ocean's depths. Like a man possessed, he swam desperately toward Chloe, who already showed no signs of breathing in the distance. But just as he was about to reach her, the ship's massive propeller mercilessly appeared, advanced, and swept everything away. A mist of blood exploded before Adrian's eyes. Adrian was completely insane by the time the ship's lifeguards pulled him aboard. Clutched tightly in his palm was a torn fragment Chloe's white dress. "Get everyone out here. Can't even keep track of one person. I'll have them buried with her," drenched and trembling. His face was ghostly pale, the bloodshot black eyes held nothing but obsessive bloodlust. The bodyguard beside him turned pale with fear, while the assistant trembled so violently he could barely hold his phone steady. Chloe must be in so much pain, Adrian murmured in a low voice, large teardrops falling one after another. His Chloe, it must hurt so much. He snatched the gun from the bodyguard's hand and turned to walk into the cabin. Don't be afraid, Chloe. I'll bring them down to accompany you soon. Yet the next second, the assistant's excited voice suddenly exploded. Adrian, wait, there's news from the police station. It's about your wife. He had bet right. Adrian indeed stopped in his tracks. He dropped the gun, grabbed the phone, and played the voice message. Adrian, after several days of comparison, our technicians have finally identified the perpetrator who harmed Mrs. Broderick that day, Jeff, 30 years old. The elder brother of yesterday's second victim, Ms. Erin, through fingerprint matching. It was also him who kidnapped Ms. Erin yesterday. However, unlike the brutal attack on Mrs. Broderick, the perpetrator seemed to deliberately avoid fatal areas on Ms. Erin's body. Moreover, tests revealed that the blood on Ms. Erin was not human blood. Under the night sky, Adrian stood silently on the deck, his expression as dark and menacing as an owl god. Find out exactly what's going on. His voice was laced with nothing but fury. A suspicion arose in his heart. Search the entire ship from stem to stern with your men. Jeff must be aboard. This is a conspiracy against my beloved, Adrian said coldly. He forcibly suppressed the overwhelming grief in his heart. His Chloe was most likely deliberately driven to death by the Erin family siblings. He would personally avenge her. Broderick family's private hospital, top-floor VIP ward. Erin leaned against the pillow, replying to concerned comments from fans on her million-follower account. Don't worry everyone, Adrian appeared just in time to save me. Sob. I can't live without this man in my life. I love him so much, The action of replying to the message was interrupted by a sudden phone call. When she saw the caller's name, Erin's face lit up with joy. She quickly turned up the volume of the TV drama before carefully answering the call. How did it go? Did you succeed? Is that woman dead? Whatever the other person said, Erin furrowed her brows in shock. Suicide? How is that possible? That bitch would never give up the Broderick family's wealth to die. She paused after speaking, realizing she would soon replace her as the new Mrs. Broderick, and her mood instantly improved tremendously. At least she knew her place, understood she couldn't win against me, so she just went ahead and died. That whole family is trash, social waste, honestly useless alive anyway. The child, phut. That was just some random egg I bought. Come on, do you know how painful egg retrieval needles are? I never planned to let her carry the child to term from the start. Alright, find a chance to hide later. I'll fake an illness to cover for you and lure Adrian away. He's into me anyway. A nurse's knock sounded at the door. Miss Erin, your sleep aid is here. Erin yawned and urged impatiently. Haven't I already given you $1 million? Wait until I successfully marry into the Broderick family. And I'll give you 10 million more. I'm dead tired, I'm going to sleep first. After hanging up the phone, she stretched contentedly, the smile at the corners of her lips impossible to suppress. Chloe, what right does a high school dropout frying rice girl have to compete with her? The cruise ship's movie theater was pitch black. Jeff crouched in the projection room, staring at the ended call screen on his phone, irritably cracking his neck. That fucking bitch actually got lucky enough to climb into Adrian's bed. Goddammit, he squinted slightly, his whole body suddenly shuddering as he rubbed his nose compulsively with excessive force. Then he pulled out a small bag of white powder from his trouser pocket. With the practiced ease of a thief, he slumped onto the nearby table and took a deep, desperate drag. The intense rush made him jerk his head back abruptly, his body stiffening for a long moment. Only then did he finally emerge from the ecstasy that had sent his soul soaring to the heavens. Fuck, that's the good shit. Jeff leaned against the wall, drool dripping from the corner of his mouth in ecstasy, disgusting and lewd. He basked in his own reverie for quite some time, until the gnawing pangs of hunger overwhelmed him. Only then did he lazily rise to his feet, rubbing his belly as he plotted to sneak out for a bite to eat. Span, what the fuck does Adrian think he is? He's about to become my brother-in-law soon anyway. I'll make him kneel and lick my damn feet. Jeff cursed under his breath as he yanked the door open. The next second, a cold gun barrel pressed against his forehead. In the darkness, Adrian spoke with a hoarse, chilling voice. Let's guess how many seconds a person can live after being shot through the head. Jeff froze in terror, his hands trembling as he raised them in practiced surrender. Adrian, have you misunderstood something? I'm Erin's brother, we even attended the same school together as kids. Bang, after the gunshot, Jeff's right ear fell off. Jeff collapsed, clutching his head and writhing in agony. Blood smeared across his face, his bowels releasing beneath him. The air was instantly filled with a foul, putrid stench. Adrian didn't even blink as he took the handkerchief from his bodyguard and covered his nose and mouth. Give me the truth before dawn. Jeff was dragged away screaming, leaving behind a trail of bright red blood. After completing all this, Adrian stepped out and turned to enter the elevator. Beyond the transparent elevator walls, the sea surface shimmered with pale white hues. The sunrise drew ever closer. Adrian's heart ached more intensely. He knew that upon reaching the penthouse suite, he would encounter the belongings of his beloved, mementos he never dared to face again in this lifetime. The elevator doors opened, revealing his assistant standing at the suite entrance, his face etched with unease. Adrian stepped forward expressionlessly, but his assistant stopped him, trembling as he warned, Adrian, it appears the mistress took her own life. Your inbox just received a scheduled video. It contains a message she left for you. Adrian whipped his head around to stare at him. The assistant handed over the tablet, fingers shaking as he pressed play. Adrian, if you're seeing this video, it means I'm already dead. Don't get agitated, no one forced me. I jumped into the sea willingly, so I want to ask you not to blame anyone else on the ship, including the bodyguards who were supposed to be watching me. I tricked them into leaving beforehand. Honestly, there's not much I want to say to you, every day for a while now. I've been counting down the days until I could leave you. I loved you for a long time in the past, but now, I've lost my mother, witnessed you cheat on me with the person I despise most, and completely lost the ability to be a mother, all thanks to you. Your selfishness and arrogance are what killed me. Yes, I know everything you did behind my back, so I've chosen to leave you forever. Goodbye, no, never see you again. In the video, Chloe spoke in a light-hearted tone, her expression vivid. Yet every word she said was like a blade, stabbing Adrian's heart until it bled. His previously expectant expression instantly turned deathly pale. He lowered his gaze to the now-ended video, his eyes filled with disbelief. Chloe, she knew. When did she find out? Without waiting for his assistant's reply, he rushed into the room, desperate to find other clues. At a single glance, his steps froze at the sight of Chloe's terminated pregnancy test results left on the coffee table. Thunderous crash, a bolt of lightning suddenly split the sky outside the window, and Adrian finally realized how terribly wrong he had been. He scrambled on hands and knees to the coffee table, clutching the two torn marriage certificates. He wailed in anguish, utterly heartbroken. After the storm passed, the sunlight shone brilliantly bright. Adrian carefully arranged Chloe's remaining belongings into the wooden box held by his assistant, staggered to his feet, and said in a gloomy tone, "File a new lawsuit against the Erin family regarding the deaths of Chloe's dad and Chloe's expulsion from school back then. As for Jeff, cripple him." Broderick family's department store under their conglomerate, Erin was in high spirits. Swiping the black card Adrian had gifted her for her birthday to indulge in some carefree shopping, she wasn't the least bit afraid of Adrian getting angry, although the Erin family had never been as wealthy or influential as the Broderick family. She'd known Adrian since childhood and understood he responded better to honey than vinegar. When the time came, she'd just turn on her usual charm and everything would be fine. So what if that bitch Chloe is dead? Anyway, Erin touched her lower abdomen, a mocking smile appearing at the corners of her lips. In just a few months, Adrian will surely forget Chloe ever existed. The family of three would live happily ever after. At this thought, Erin directly purchased the entire set of luxury baby products in front of her. Charge it. Yet the next second, the salesperson who had been obsequiously respectful to her returned with the card, looking troubled as she said, "Miss Erin, this card, it won't go through." Erin instantly flew into a rage. But before she could curse, her phone rang. It was Adrian. Erin smiled again. "Adrian, where have you been?" "I'm completely fine now, just out shopping. When are you coming home?" "I want to give you a surprise," Erin cooed in a sweet voice. In the backseat of the Maybach, Adrian on the other end of the call also curved his lips into a smile. "Oh really? What a coincidence, I've got a surprise for you too. Come outside, I'm at the door." Erin abandoned her purchases and ran joyfully toward the door. Sure enough, the Broderick family's Mercedes was parked there. She smiled as she opened the rear door, but Adrian wasn't inside. "Where's your Adrian?" Erin asked the driver in the front seat with a cold expression. "Adrian is preparing a surprise for you." The driver answered flawlessly. Erin finally got into the car with satisfaction. The scenery outside the window receded, and half an hour later, the car stopped in front of a newly built sanatorium. Erin stepped out of the car with a puzzled expression. "Are you sure this is the right place? Adrian is waiting for me here." The driver remained expressionless. "Adrian's specially imported equipment worth tens of millions from abroad to help you recuperate." Erin finally relaxed, but just as she turned to enter, She suddenly stopped and turned back to scrutinize the driver again. "Are you new here?" The driver didn't respond. A chill instantly ran down her spine. Erin turned to run but was knocked unconscious by the driver's raised hand. When he opened his eyes again, Erin found herself strapped inside an MRI machine, instantly terrified. "Let me go. Do you know who I am? The future Mrs. Broderick. If you dare harm a single hair on my head, Adrian won't let you get away with it." But the next second, a man's deep voice rang out. "The future Mrs. Broderick. You think you're worthy?" Adrian scoffed coldly. "I had no idea how long you've been throwing your weight around behind my back, using my wife's name, even daring to bully my wife." Seeing her scheme exposed, Erin trembled in fear but still put on a tough front, squeezing out a few crocodile tears as she begged for mercy. "Adrian, you finally came. I was so scared. They were all bullying me." "I don't know what you're talking about. Bullying your wife. I know how much you care about her. How could I possibly?" Her supposedly clever lies completely collapsed when she saw Jeff's severed head. Just like Jeff. She was so terrified that she lost control of her bowels and bladder. Adrian, however, was in high spirits. He lowered his eyes with a light chuckle. "Your brother had bad luck. I gave him a chance to escape, but there just happened to be a few sharks in the sea. By the time my men found him, only his head remained." Erin shivered with fear, her teeth chattering. "Adrian, I love you. Please, let me go." "Okay, I'm already carrying our baby." She thought these words would soften Adrian's heart. Little did they know, he couldn't care less, other than Chloe's. "I wouldn't take anyone else's child. Do it." As the words fell, dozens of masked bodyguards entered carrying baskets filled with snakes and insects. Erin was utterly terrified, reduced to nothing but the chattering of her teeth. Take it. This is what you owe Chloe," Adrian said flatly. Countless snakes, insects, and rats that had been starved for 3 days crawled into the instrument where Erin was confined. Her beautiful appearance, along with her fantasy of being a wealthy lady, was utterly devoured and destroyed. 72 hours later, with not a single patch of unblemished flesh left on her body, Erin was finally released. Adrian sat reclining on the black leather sofa, his handsome face as solemn as a stone sculpture. Erin was dragged in by bodyguards like a dead dog to sign the organ donation consent form, yet he still didn't even lift an eyelid. His slender fingers slowly caressing that piece of white dress fabric in his palm. Now Erin resembled a demon, trembling in pain yet mustering all her strength to glare viciously at Adrian. Suddenly, she burst into maniacal laughter. "Adrian, even if you kill me now, that bitch Chloe won't come back. You've been tainted ever since the day you slept with me." The room temperature plummeted, the bodyguards rushed to cover her mouth, but Erin, consumed by hatred for the man before her, had no intention of backing down. "You think I killed Chloe, but you know perfectly well that Chloe was killed by your own hands. It was you who ordered the doctor to perform a curettage on her. It was you who ordered my brother's responsibility not to be investigated. And it was you who personally told me to donate eggs so she could conceive a child." She glared with one eye already gnawed by rats, her grin twisted and ferocious. "You are the most disgusting man in this world." Seeing her words becoming increasingly unrestrained, the bodyguard simply knocked her unconscious with a swift strike and hastily dragged her away. Yet Adrian remained motionless, sitting in silence, until much later, when the setting sun sank below the horizon, he seemed to finally awaken, murmuring in a low voice, "Yes, I deserve to go to hell." 3 days later, a smuggling ship bound for Southeast Asia set sail in the dead of night, carrying Erin. At the same time, an anonymous whistleblower's expose topped the trending charts. Mr. Erin, who had successfully restarted his business with the help of the Broderick family, was imprisoned for early bribery and later found hanging himself in his cell at night. Upon hearing the tragic news, Mrs. Erin jumped to her death the same day. Chloe's funeral, Adrian ignored all attempts to stop him and personally carved the tombstone bit by bit, personally erected Chloe's cenotaph. After the funeral, Adrian fell ill. He locked himself in the villa where he once lived with Chloe, dismissed all the staff, and curled up on the sofa filled with Chloe's old clothes, drinking incessantly day and night. When the secretary finally couldn't withstand the board members' pressure and had the property management forcibly break into the villa, half a month had already passed, and this time, the secretary came bearing earth-shattering news. "Adrian, are you all right?" The secretary timidly pushed open the bedroom door and saw the skeletal figure of Adrian, now emaciated to a mere skeleton frame amidst piles of liquor bottles, sleeping soundly while clutching Chloe's clothes. Only the dark circles under his eyes and the bloodstains at the corners of his mouth revealed his severe health issues. "Adrian," the secretary's voice trembled as she reached out to nudge his shoulder, finally rousing him from his sweet dream, and the next second, the man's sinister, hoarse voice rang out with a warning. Who gave you the nerve to wake me? The secretary stared in shock at the gun barrel pointed at her temple, swallowing hard before stammering. I only recently discovered that the day after her mother's death, Madam seems to have indeed gone up to Francis' family's penthouse and met with Emmanuel, signing some kind of contract. The two of them seemed to have reached some sort of deal. As her words fell, a deathly silence filled the room. After a moment, Adrian's dull eyes finally reacted as if coming back to awareness. Inch by inch, it lights up. Prepare the car. We're going to find Emmanuel now. Holy Land Hospital Inpatient Department, New Zealand. Chloe opened her eyes from unconsciousness, meeting the gaze of a blonde, blue-eyed nurse. The latter exclaimed in surprise and rushed out to call a doctor in a foreign language. Mr. Brown. The patient in bed 07 who was transferred here after a car accident and had been in a coma for 10 days has woken up. 10 minutes later, Chloe was taken to various examination rooms for tests. Miss Anna, I regret to inform you that the car accident caused damage to your uterus, which had to be removed. Fortunately, apart from some minor lung inflammation, your body is recovering well. In just a few more hours, you'll be able to walk. Mr. Brown smiled warmly. Chloe examined her current name on the medical record Anashan. After grasping the general information, she offered the doctor a faint smile. When she spoke, apart from her hoarse voice, her American English sounded impeccably professional. Thank you, doctor, I understand. After 2 more hours of observation in the hospital, Chloe used the phone Emmanuel had provided for her to contact his local informant assistant. Half an hour later, the assistant drove to the hospital to pick her up. The assistant was a local, with wheat-colored skin, a tall build, and a set of neat white teeth when he smiled. My name is Don, and I studied abroad for 7 years. Emmanuel has already arranged the property and vehicle for you. I'll take you there now. It was a detached villa with a garden, located in a safe, clean, and well-maintained neighborhood. Upon arrival, Don swiftly helped Chloe open the door. Emmanuel's people handle things very thoroughly. The house was fully stocked. From daily necessities to clothes and jewelry, if you need anything, just give me a call anytime. Don knew his boundaries well. Standing at the doorway without entering, he waved his phone and pointed to the neighboring villa. That's my friend's place. If you can't find me when trouble arises, you can knock on their door too. Faced with his overflowing kindness, Chloe instinctively felt some resistance, but she quickly adjusted her attitude and responded with an equally radiant smile. All right then, I won't stand on ceremony. Don finally drove away with his mind at ease. Suddenly finding herself in completely unfamiliar surroundings, Chloe felt an emptiness in her heart. To keep herself from recalling those dark memories of the past, she carefully toured both the interior and exterior of the house. Just as she returned to the first-floor study, the windows suddenly rattled. With the blinds obstructing her view, Chloe couldn't initially see what was outside the window, but her already tense heart leaped even higher as she scanned the room. She finally chose to grab a baseball bat, turned sideways, and carefully pulled open the blinds. The moment sunlight streamed into the room, she suddenly pushed open the window, raised the baseball bat toward the target outside, and shouted sharply, "Stay away from my house." Only to come face to face with a pair of large, round amber eyes brimming with tears, Chloe suddenly realized that the villain she had been worrying about all this time was actually a mixed-race little girl who got stuck in the apple tree branches because she was too chubby to climb down, and now, the little girl was utterly terrified by her, wailing loudly. The piercing cries assaulted her ears. Chloe was dumbfounded. "I'm really sorry." Facing the girl's brother who came to the rescue upon hearing the commotion, Chloe blushed with embarrassment. As a grown woman in her 20s, she had frightened a child to tears. No matter how you looked at it, the fault was entirely hers. "The child looks terrified. Just say the word, and I'm willing to compensate." Chloe stared at the nearly 6'3" man before her, her voice growing quieter. "Or I can take you to the hospital for a checkup right now." At that moment, the man raised his head, tilting it slightly with a frown as he asked her, "Is this how you all solve problems?" The tone was unreadable, but the man's deep-set, rugged features and slightly menacing expression still made Chloe's heart skip a beat. Was he refusing to let the matter rest? Yet the next second, the man raised a finger and declared loudly, "I'll count to 3. You'll apologize to this lady in front of you and promise never to pick apples from her garden without permission again. 1. 2. I'm sorry." The little girl pursed her lips, her tear-filled eyes looking at Chloe but not daring to let them fall, her voice soft and sticky. "But I didn't mean to. These apples looked so delicious. I was hungry." One sentence was all it took for Chloe's heart to completely melt. She couldn't help but soften her voice to comfort him. "It's okay. You can come pick them anytime you want." The previously fierce-looking man burst into laughter at these words and waved his hands repeatedly. Don't be fooled by her innocent little face, she's actually a bit overweight. That's why my mom and I are strict about keeping snacks away from her. As he spoke, he lifted the little girl into his arms and bounced her slightly. You're a tiny bit lighter than yesterday. I'll let your snack stealing slide just for today. He ruffled the little girl's golden hair with a smile, then looked up at Chloe, his voice deep. Forgot to introduce myself, I'm Anthony, the local beach lifeguard. This is my little sister Beth, just turned 5, we live next door, and my mom's the famous chef at the biggest restaurant in town. Feel free to drop by for dinner sometime. She's always saying she'd love to meet more friends. Chloe didn't expect such a serious-looking man to be so talkative, which put her at ease. My name is Anna, I just moved here today. Hearing the name Anna, Anthony widened his eyes in surprise and exclaimed, Don mentioned you to us. We heard you were injured in a car accident recently. Are you feeling better now? Chloe nodded with a smile. Anthony was about to say something more when a sharp whistle sounded in the distance. His expression changed abruptly as he shoved Beth into Chloe's arms. Someone's drowning. Take care of her for me, I'll be right back. With that, he left without looking back. Left behind, Chloe and the soft little Beth in her arms stared at each other wide-eyed. A few seconds later, Chloe smiled and asked the big-eyed, blinking Beth, Sweetie, would you like me to read you a fairy tale? Evening fell. Chloe had just helped Beth place the final building block when the doorbell rang. This time it was a middle-aged woman who appeared to be around 40 years old. She had a kind face and a calm smile. You must be Anna, right? I heard about you from Anthony. I'm his and Beth's mother, Doris. Before she could finish speaking, Beth from the study room rushed into her arms like a cannonball, sweetly calling out, Mommy. Doris didn't leave, looking at Chloe with eyes full of gratitude. Thank you for taking care of Beth this afternoon, she's quite energetic. If it's alright, would you like to join us for dinner at my place? Chloe only then realized she was rather hungry, and it seemed too late to start cooking now. The woman before her was gentle, just like her late mother. The thought barely formed before she found herself nodding inexplicably. At the dinner table that evening, Beth vividly recounted the fairy tale book she'd read that afternoon. Her storytelling left brother Anthony and mother Doris grinning from ear to ear. Chloe didn't ask why they looked so different or had different surnames despite being family. Everyone has their own little secrets. She was no exception. She had thought coming abroad would be a difficult time to endure, but now it seems. Swallowing the last bite of silky, sweet, and glutinous cheesecake, Chloe felt warmth rising in her chest. Everything was still quite alright. Outside the auction house, Adrian listened to his secretary's report, his gaze icy and obsessive. These days, Emmanuel has been rejecting all our calls, emails, and meeting invitations, but there are his mother's personal effects in this auction. I've confirmed privately that he will definitely come. As he finished speaking, Emmanuel indeed entered the auction hall surrounded by a crowd. Adrian lowered his eyes, the thin corners of his lips curling into a deranged smirk. He made me and my wife separate, and now he wants to act like nothing happened. Mr. Emmanuel, everything has been arranged, the auction organizer said respectfully. Emmanuel nodded and entered the exclusive auction booth prepared for him on the 3rd floor. The auction will begin in half an hour. The manager continued to be attentive. I heard you just got off the plane and haven't eaten yet. I've arranged for your favorite foie gras with black truffles paired with brandy. Emmanuel was exhausted. After a perfunctory response, he leaned back on the sofa, lowering his eyes in feigned sleep. A few minutes later, the door was pushed open, and someone entered but stopped motionless behind him. Get out, Emmanuel warned coldly. The person still didn't move. He instinctively opened his eyes, only to meet Adrian's half-smiling gaze. Emmanuel, who gave you the guts to send my wife away? After a few seconds of silence, Emmanuel sneered and regained his composure. Adrian, you're mistaken in saying that. He pointed at him from a distance, his tone deliberately provoking. You're the one who cheated and broke your wife's heart. You drove her to jump into the sea. What does that have to do with me? Stop playing dumb. Tell me where she is. Adrian didn't believe a single word. Emmanuel continued feigning ignorance. I don't understand what you're saying. After agreeing to help Chloe leave, he had already sent his wife and children abroad temporarily. Adrian wanted to threaten him but had no leverage at all. Emmanuel was prepared for Adrian's emotional breakdown, yet unexpectedly, when he looked smugly at Adrian, all he saw in his eyes was an inky, unshakable sorrow. Emmanuel paused, then teased helplessly. Mister, when a tycoon like you could have any woman you want, why cling to just one flower? Besides, the dead can't be brought back to life. Where do you expect me to pull a living person out of thin air? Having said that, he paid no further attention. the security captain, who had long noticed him on the surveillance, arrived with his team and mustered the courage to warn Adrian. Adrian, please leave. Adrian cast a deep glance at Emmanuel, said nothing more, and turned to leave. 2 hours later, the auction concluded. Emmanuel successfully won his mother's keepsake at the auction and got into his car with satisfaction. Not going back to the old house today, we're heading to Secretary S' place. He pulled out a pink diamond bracelet from his pocket, eyes smiling with delight. Just then, his phone rang. He pressed to answer. Be a good girl and wait for me at home after cleaning up. Hubby has prepared a surprise for you today. Those little props we've been saving up these past few days. He flirted shamelessly as if no one else was around, but suddenly choked on his words when he met those pitch-black eyes in the rearview mirror, like a rooster with its neck wrung. Mr. Emmanuel is in high spirits. Adrian sat in the driver's seat, his tone dripping with mockery. Emmanuel was thoroughly provoked and hung up the phone without hesitation. What exactly do you want? He spoke each word with deliberate emphasis. Adrian remained calm. My wife, Chloe. Emmanuel sneered. You can't threaten me. I'm not threatening you. Adrian chuckled. Yet it inexplicably made Emmanuel break out in a cold sweat. Either you tell me where my wife is, or you'll join me in hell to atone for her. Emmanuel only then realized they were driving along a dead-end mountain road. Less than 800 meters away stood a 100-meter-high cliff. You're insane. Emmanuel never imagined Adrian could actually go this mad, roaring. Stop it, Adrian. 10, 9. Adrian calmly counts down. The car speeds up. 3, 2, 1. I say, Emmanuel finally broke down. You and Chloe, you two are just complete lunatics. The car came to a steady stop less than 20 centimeters from the cliff's edge. Anna, see you tonight, Tilda. Beth waved at Chloe through the open car window. Chloe was burying tulip seeds in the soil and looked up with a smile. My dear little Beth, wait a moment, Auntie has something for you. Soon after, Chloe brought 2 protective charms to the car, one to hang in Anthony's vehicle, the other tucked into Beth's backpack. This is something I made recently. We call it a protective charm. It blesses family and friends with safety, health, and everything going smoothly. Chloe spoke softly, her words flowing gently. When she looked up again, she unexpectedly saw the siblings before her, both big and small, gazing at her with teary eyes. Anna, you're so kind. Anna sis, I love you. Chloe didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She ruffled both their heads affectionately and said, Anthony, you're great too. Beth, I love you too. Let's go, or we'll be late. The car drove away, leaving Chloe standing by the lawn, her smile unwavering. She had been in New Zealand for nearly 3 months now. All that had happened seemed to be slowly fading away in the peaceful, monotonous repetition of her days, gradually becoming a nightmare she had sealed away in the depths of her heart. Just as she had suspected, Anthony and Beth are not related by blood. 15 years ago, after an earthquake, the orphaned Anthony was adopted by Doris, who had just immigrated. At that time, Doris had just lost her own child. Not long after adopting Anthony, Doris's husband also passed away, leaving Doris and Anthony to rely on each other as mother and son. 5 years ago, Anthony found an abandoned baby Beth on his way to a mountain hike with friends, and so, 3 unrelated individuals with different faces became a happy family. Now, Chloe has arrived in New Zealand. She has joined them. At this thought, Chloe felt a warmth in her chest. The familial warmth she had yearned for years but only briefly possessed now seemed to return to her. After finishing the morning chores, Chloe followed the doctor's orders and did half an hour of rehabilitation exercises. Until 10 in the morning, she dressed neatly and knocked on the neighbor's door. Doris, let's go. Doris wasn't religious, but she did charity work, so every week she would go to the church entrance to run a charity sale. Following Doris, Chloe drove to the church. She had been doing charity work with Doris for some time. The church staff were already very familiar with her. Seeing them arrive, they immediately came forward with smiles. Hi, Anna and Doris. Thank you for donating the food and medicine. Chloe greeted them skillfully before entering the church dining hall to distribute food to the homeless and residents in need. By the time they finished, it was already 3 p.m. Chloe and Doris, after tidying up briefly, prepared to head home. Since winter arrived, the weather in New Zealand has become quite unpredictable. The morning sky was clear and bright, but by afternoon, a light drizzle had begun to fall. A cold wind blew. Chloe tightened her thin coat around herself and said with a smile to Doris, I promised to make a blueberry cheesecake for Beth, but the blueberry sauce always turns out a bit bitter when I make it. I might need. Her words completely halted when she saw the gaunt young man standing at the intersection. It was Adrian. Time seemed to freeze in that moment. In the misty drizzle, Chloe stood frozen in place. The fear and loathing etched into her very soul made her entire body tremble uncontrollably. Today she wore a pale rose-colored maxi dress with 5 centimeter kitten heels, but now, staring blankly at Adrian, she couldn't even steady herself on her feet. She could only clumsily lean on Doris for slight support. Doris was terrified by her appearance and hurriedly asked, "Anna, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" Not far away, Adrian, whose gaunt face couldn't conceal his joy between his brows, also panicked. His intended step forward froze stiffly mid-motion. His sunken, handsome eyes revealed both worry and hurt. At this moment, Chloe, who realized what had happened, finally couldn't stand anymore. Adrian found her. How is this possible? Emmanuel had said that her identity and destination abroad had undergone dozens of changes. Even Emmanuel himself didn't know the details. It required contacting through layers of intermediaries. But now, Adrian had still found her. Would he come to take her away by force? Chloe dared not think further. Dragging Doris by the hand, I turned and dashed onto the car without another thought. He stepped on the gas and hurried away. On the road, Doris dared not speak, but from her worried and understanding gaze, Chloe could tell she had probably guessed something. But Adrian was a madman. To avoid dragging their whole family into this, Chloe could only remain silent. After Doris was sent home, Chloe rushed back without a word and started packing her luggage. She couldn't stay in this city any longer. She would book a flight and leave immediately. As she was packing, the doorbell on the first floor rang. Chloe, startled like a bird hearing the twang of a bowstring, grabbed an empty vase and rushed downstairs. Upon opening the door, she found it was Anthony. His face was filled with concern. "I came back as soon as I got my mother's call. Are you all right? What trouble have you encountered? Let's solve it together." Chloe was already panicked beyond reason. Anthony's deep voice gradually soothed her frantic, terrified heart. The realization came to her belatedly. That's right. She couldn't live this life of constant hiding forever. So what if Adrian finds out? She's no longer the fried rice girl Chloe now, in this country. She has her own identity and friends. As her emotions gradually stabilized, she still chose to tell the truth. "My ex-husband did many things that hurt me in the past. I chose to leave him. But today I discovered he's found me." Chloe finished speaking. Anthony's expression darkened instantly as he said indignantly, "Give me the photos. I'll have my colleagues and friends at the police station keep a close watch. Don't worry, with us here, no one will hurt you." Beth had somehow appeared at Anthony's feet, grinning with a gap-toothed smile and piping up in a childish voice, "Yeah, protect big sister." The words made Chloe laugh. Don't let her relax completely. Here Adrian can't act recklessly. To Chloe's surprise, the scenario she imagined, Adrian forcibly taking her back to their home country, never happened. For nearly half a month after discovering Adrian vanished into thin air once again, as if evaporated from the human world. Yet, a woman's sixth sense whispered to Chloe, in places beyond her sight, Adrian seemed to have been there all along, like a drop of water merging into the sea. Chloe's life returned to calm once more. Several new residents have recently moved into the neighborhood. There were quite a few Asian faces among them. Chloe had a daily habit of taking walks. The community was large, and the midday temperature was pleasant. After lunch, she would jog around the neighborhood once. That day, as she passed by the newly moved-in neighbor's house, she saw an elderly man who had fallen beside a pile of luggage. His face twisted in pain as he desperately called out to her for help. "Little girl, please help me. I think I've sprained my back." Adhering to the principle of mutual assistance among those living abroad, Chloe helped call an ambulance and sent the elderly man to the hospital for emergency treatment. They urgently contacted the elderly woman's daughter and son-in-law who were at work, yet unexpectedly, the daughter and son-in-law took nearly 4 hours to arrive. Not only did they refuse to pay the medical fees, but they also falsely accused Chloe of being the one who hit the elderly woman. "If you didn't hit her, why would you be so kind as to send her to the hospital?" Chloe had encountered this kind of scoundrel long ago and knew they were trying to weasel out of paying the medical bills. She couldn't be bothered to explain further, simply pulling out her phone to call the police directly. But the old man's son-in-law slapped it out of her hand. "What do you think you're doing? Playing the victim first, are you?" Chloe sighed helplessly. "Sir, you need to understand that I was kind enough to bring your mother-in-law to the hospital and even paid the medical expenses in advance. That doesn't mean I was the one who hit her. If you insist on making unreasonable accusations, then I'll have no choice but to call the police." Never expected Chloe to be so tough. The man was instantly intimidated, but soon he resumed his arrogant demeanor, looking down his nose at Chloe while mocking her. "Do you know who I am? Do you know this hospital was funded by me? Cross me, and you'll be out of this neighborhood by tonight." As the man finished speaking, another group of fierce-looking bodyguards rushed into the hospital. Seeing the man's smug expression, Chloe could guess these bodyguards were hired by him. Chloe wasn't willing to back down. The police officers she'd called would arrive any moment. The man also wanted to resolve the issue before the police arrived. So, in front of everyone, he waved to the bodyguards, "Make her change her statement." The bodyguards approached Chloe. "Let me see who dares to move." Adrian's voice sounded faintly. A single sentence instantly changed the expression of the previously arrogant troublemaker. He hurriedly bowed and scrambled forward. "Director, when did you arrive? My mother had a minor incident, and the person at fault is still stubbornly refusing to compensate. I was just thinking of teaching them a small lesson. You're here to." His gaze shifted back and forth between Adrian and Chloe. He couldn't believe Chloe could be involved with Adrian, yet he also forced himself to consider, what if Chloe really was connected to Adrian? Looking at the man's colorful expression, Chloe felt nothing but extreme annoyance. She had witnessed such scenes countless times before, but this time, Adrian's reaction was exactly as she had anticipated. "She's my wife. Do you still want to make a fuss?" Adrian stepped in front of Chloe, his protective stance unmistakable. Sure enough, upon hearing this, the man didn't dare argue further. He hastily chased away the bodyguards who had come to bully Chloe, then obediently followed the nurse to pay the fees. Adrian glanced at Chloe with expectant eyes after completing all this. He wanted to seek praise. Chloe sneered coldly and ignored him. At this moment, Doris and Anthony, who had received the news, hurried over with the police. The moment she saw Chloe, Doris pulled her aside to check her over. Anthony charged forward aggressively, confronting the troublemaking man. "I just went with the police to review the community surveillance footage. Your mother-in-law fell on her own. How dare you slander her? The police are here now. Apologize to her." Adrian froze, then suddenly understood. He whipped his head toward Chloe, his face turning deathly pale. He stammered out an explanation. "That's not what I meant." Chloe responded with a cold, mocking laugh. "But deep down, you've always believed I'd do something like this, haven't you? A high school dropout like me who works at a fried rice stall, of course I'd stoop to such despicable things." Chloe was mocking herself. Yet every word and every sentence pierced like a blade, tearing Adrian's heart apart. That night, the new tenants who had just moved in quickly packed up and left, and within days, the troublemaker was arrested by the police for bribery. From then on, Chloe received daily apology letters and gifts from Adrian. She threw everything away, but Adrian saw that the method wasn't working. He began to keep watch outside Chloe's house. He didn't have his usual bodyguards and assistants with him. Only he stood alone, wearing Chloe's custom-tailored suit she had once bought for him, dark circles shadowing his eyes. His expression was full of guilt. Chloe couldn't be bothered with him. She remained utterly unmoved by his self-indulgent apology. A week had passed. Early in the morning, Beth dragged Chloe out to buy the hazelnut chocolate she'd been craving. To celebrate the new year, Chloe had prepared the ingredients several days in advance. Throughout the entire afternoon, Chloe and Doris were busy cooking. Outside the window, fine snowflakes had begun to fall unnoticed. It wasn't until Beth screamed and rushed outside to play in the snow that Chloe noticed. Adrian stood outside the door for a long time. A pale white hue had settled upon his hair. "Chloe," he murmured softly. Chloe said calmly, "Mr. Adrian, please leave. I'm not called by that name, nor am I the person you're looking for. Your wife Chloe died in that sea half a year ago, right before your eyes. Have you forgotten?" Chloe's words were almost cruel. Adrian instantly reddened his eyes, his body trembling as he reached out to touch Chloe's hair. Yet he stood frozen in place, torn between fear and anxiety that she might be angry. "I was wrong, Chloe. Everything in the past was my fault. I didn't know. Because of my stupidity, I actually made your mother. It's all my fault. Chloe, hit me, scold me, do whatever you want to punish me. But don't leave me, please. I can't bear it." Adrian stood before Chloe, tears streaming down his face, his tall frame hunched in remorse and guilt. All he wanted was her forgiveness, but Chloe remained utterly unmoved. All her love, compassion, and forgiveness for the man before her had been completely exhausted on the night her mother died. She caught a snowflake in her palm, watching it melt against her warm skin. "Adrian, I don't hate you," she said calmly, "because you're now a stranger to me. So could you please stop appearing by my side and stop disturbing my life?" Hearing this, Adrian widened his eyes abruptly, his expression shattered and uneasy. He shook his head repeatedly. Even kneeling directly before Chloe, he held Chloe tightly and took out a protective charm from his pocket. Choking back tears, he said, "I climbed 999 steps on my knees to get this for you. Chloe, please don't leave me. You're all I have left in this life." Chloe couldn't break free. Feeling both irritated and suffocated, now she only felt that Adrian was like a dog that couldn't be shooed away. Inside the house, Anthony was helping Doris make dumplings. Noticing the scene outside the window, he asked in surprise, "Is this Anna's ex-husband?" He seems genuinely apologetic, yet the female mountain pierced through the facade at a glance. Do you think Anna got those scars on her body by accident? Her ex-husband cheated and even let his mistress hurt her. And you still think is sincere? Anthony was furious. He immediately dialed the police with a stern face. 10 minutes later, the police car arrived. Adrian was ordered to stop stalking Chloe or face arrest. Adrian had no choice but to leave. Pushing the door open, Chloe smiled at Anthony and said, "Thanks." Anthony replied, "All good, bro Tilda." The words dissolved the slightly awkward atmosphere in the room. The three exchanged glances and laughed, with the police involved. Adrian really couldn't appear by Chloe's side too often, but he had money and power, so the Broderick family group's overseas companies began investing heavily as financial backers in all community-related infrastructure and venues. Meanwhile, Adrian's sole investment purpose was to ensure Chloe would never have to spend money anywhere she went. At the same time, Adrian began publicly apologizing and confessing his feelings to Chloe. Every day, 999 roses would be delivered to Anna's home. Meanwhile, all of Chloe's friends received expensive jewelry gifts in Chloe's name. Their surprise was tinged with awkwardness. To reassure them, Chloe briefly explained the whole story and comfort them, saying it's fine to accept it graciously. There's no reason not to take a scumbag's money. As Adrian continued his lavish spending spree regardless of cost, time arrived at Christmas Eve. The Anthony family, on vacation at home, planned a seaside getaway. He specifically asked Chloe if she was free. At the same time, Chloe received a sapphire necklace worth millions and an invitation to a film festival. Yet she decisively chose to go on a trip with Anthony's family, even though she knew her most admired celebrity idol would be attending that very film festival. Even this movie screening was specially arranged by Adrian just to share the same space with her. She didn't want to see Adrian, nor accept Adrian's kindness anymore, yet she never expected to encounter Adrian by the seaside, the very person who should have been attending the film festival. "Anna, help me put on some sunscreen." Anthony approached with a smile, with Beth riding on his shoulders. Chloe took the sunscreen and started applying it for him, from front to back, inside and out. The search was conducted with meticulous thoroughness. During this process, Chloe kept feeling an intense gaze firmly fixed in their direction. Chloe knew it was Adrian, but ignored him. Yet before long, suddenly waves of blonde, blue-eyed bombshells started approaching, specifically hitting on Anthony. They flirted with suggestive, laden advances. Anthony, overwhelmed, had no choice but to surrender and beg Chloe for help. "Please, can you tell your ex-husband to stop messing with me? I'm the local lifeguard, this isn't appropriate. Besides, I'm not, well, that kind of guy." Chloe had no choice but to come find Adrian. Seeing Chloe finally willing to approach him on her own initiative, Adrian was overjoyed. "Chloe, you," but was Chloe interrupted. "Adrian, do you think this is romantic, or do you believe this can test Anthony's true nature? Let me make it clear to you, there are no inappropriate actions or relationships between us. He's like an older brother to me. Doris is like a mother, and Beth is like my daughter. I grew up in poverty, lost my father at 18, and my mother just last year. I yearn for family, for an ordinary yet warm home, so please, can you stop ruining my life?" Adrian tried to explain. "If you're willing, I can." Chloe mocked with her eyes. "All my past suffering was brought by you, Adrian. Haven't you realized that yet?" Adrian looked pained. "But you're all I have left. Can't you give me one more chance? From now on I'll definitely get myself together, and there won't be any more messy women around me. If you like it here, I'll even move the company here. Let's just be an ordinary couple here, okay?" Chloe felt emotionally exhausted, and a sense of powerlessness welled up from the depths of her heart again. She looked at the Adrian before her, raised her head, and slapped him across the face. Adrian was both surprised and concerned. "You're willing to hit me, wife? Does your hand hurt?" Chloe withdrew her hand and said calmly, "Adrian, whether you live or die in pain now, I truly don't care anymore. In other words, I really don't love you anymore, not even a single bit." With one sentence, she extinguished Adrian's last spark of light. Chloe turned to leave but collided with Doris, who was rushing over in a hurry. Her face was flustered. "Have you seen Beth? She's gone missing. I've been looking for almost half an hour and can't find her." Doris was so anxious her eyes turned red. Beth is clingy and well-behaved by nature. Though occasionally mischievous and active, she generally doesn't wander off, let alone suddenly disappearing without telling any adults. "This is very wrong, Mom. Don't panic," Anthony panted as he rushed over, clearly having already searched around first. "I see there are many children here. Beth might have just gone somewhere to play. Let's check the surveillance first." Chloe also came to her senses and opened her phone to check the location. The kids' watch I gave Beth has GPS tracking. The map shows she's about 2 kilometers away from this beach, Chloe murmured. Doris just breathed a sigh of relief. Thank goodness you're here. But the next second, Chloe's expression changed abruptly. The position is moving too fast. Something's wrong. We're in a car. Doris's face turned pale in an instant. Even Anthony's expression darkened. This can't be. I've always taught Beth never to get in a stranger's car. I've already sent someone to check the surveillance footage. Beside them, Adrian spoke up, thinking of his network of connections. Chloe rarely refrained from voicing her dissent. This secretly pleased him. Soon, the beach manager took them to check the surveillance footage, and at the same time, Doris also called the police. To everyone's surprise, there were 4 or 5 pairs of parents who reported missing children on the same day. This made the whole situation even more eerie. The police quickly identified the suspect who took Beth and the other children based on surveillance footage. It was Beth's male kindergarten teacher, Joe. Chloe had met him before, humble, gentle, and caring towards animals, with his handsome and sunny appearance. He was very popular at the kindergarten, especially Beth, who often talked about wanting to marry Joe when she grew up. It's hard to imagine what malicious act such a man could commit against children, but with multiple children involved, no one dared to take the risk. They had no choice but to mobilize all police forces and search with full effort. For Beth, Chloe also made her first request to Adrian. This child is extremely important to both me and Doris. I know, in their memory, Adrian, who never seemed to care about children, now had only tenderness in his usually cold, hard eyes. I've contacted the largest gang organization here. They have the most detailed intelligence network. I've also found the real information about that. Just thinking of the message his assistant had sent just minutes ago, Adrian couldn't help but frown. For years ago in Country A, he was involved in a heinous case of child molestation. Moreover, he participated in a local pedophile group chat with nearly 100 members. Learning the truth, Chloe felt her heart grow cold inch by inch. This meant Beth was likely taken away by Joe to be handed over to more people for abuse. No one could bear such consequences. To help the police solve the case faster, Adrian shared the information with them free of charge, which significantly clarified their leads. Even Anthony showed a grateful expression toward him for the first time. Soon, based on the location from Beth's watch, the vehicle carrying her came to a stop at an abandoned hospital 40 kilometers away. While searching for information, Chloe and her group had already arrived near the hospital based on the location tracking. Just as they had predicted, the lawn at the hospital entrance bore the tracks of multiple vehicle tires, yet Chloe's group only had 4 people. The people I arranged will be here in 10 minutes. Adrian stopped Chloe, who was holding a baseball bat and about to get out of the car. There's a high probability that some of them are armed. Chloe looked down at him. The worry and panic in her eyes piercing his heart with pain. He suddenly realized how much she cared about children, yet now she could never become a mother again. Thick fog-like guilt nearly suffocated Adrian. He fell silent, taking a pistol from the storage box and handing it to Chloe. He nearly pleaded, "Protect yourself." Chloe found Beth in an abandoned operating room. She and several other little girls were all in a comatose state. The number of children didn't match the reported missing cases, with 2 boys still unaccounted for. Anthony and Adrian went to search for the remaining 2 boys. Only after Chloe and Doris blocked the operating room door with a cart did they dare attempt to wake Beth. But they had been drugged and wouldn't regain consciousness anytime soon. There was no other way. Chloe could only pray for the police to arrive quickly. The goddess of fortune was on her side. The sound of police sirens echoed in the distance. What made her expression change drastically was the operating room door being violently forced open. The criminals also heard the police sirens and were preparing to destroy the evidence. But the door was locked, and they realized something was wrong. One of the armed men directly shattered the glass on the operating room door, reaching in to push aside the obstacles blocking it, only to lock eyes with Chloe and Doris inside the room. The man cursed under his breath and raised his pistol toward the room, but Chloe fired first. Outnumbered by the criminals, Chloe could only retreat to the surgical compartment where the child was kept, waiting for backup. Fortunately, the police had already arrived. After a chaotic gunfight, everything fell into silence. 15 minutes later, the large-scale criminal gang led by Chow, which was involved in trafficking children's organs, was apprehended. All the unconscious children were also taken to the hospital for medical examinations. At the same time, Adrian was also placed in the ambulance. A bullet pierced his heart. To save Anthony from the ambush, fortunately, the bullet wound was still some distance from his heart. Otherwise he would have died on the spot. Even though she once hated Adrian so much she wished him dead, yet upon learning he had saved what was now her family, Chloe still felt grateful to him. But there was only gratitude, nothing more. At the operating room door, Adrian lay on the hospital bed when he suddenly heard a nurse frown and ask, "Who here has type A blood?" Anthony raised his hand. "I am." Adrian frowned and refused. "I don't need you to donate blood for me out of gratitude." Chloe interrupted him. "Type A blood is in ample supply. The nurse was just doing routine checks and questions." Adrian looked away awkwardly. Chloe twisted the knife further. "Don't worry. I'm not like you. I'd never make someone choose. The people I care about will always be my top priority." This sentence was truly a knockout blow. On the hospital bed, Adrian fell silent. The next moment, Anthony, who had been enjoying the spectacle, said with a mix of pity and mockery, "Bro, though you saved me, as for those things you did before, well, belated affection is cheaper than grass." Adrian gave him a silent look and, before entering the operating room, shoved an inheritance agreement into his hands. "It doesn't matter, even if I die, these hundreds of billions in family assets will still go to Chloe." Anthony rubbed his nose and handed the agreement to Beth, who was wiping the sweat from Chloe's forehead as she received an IV drip. Chloe said without looking up, "What do I need so much money for? Donate it all after he's gone." Contrary to her expectations, Adrian didn't die. The surgery was successful. Beth also woke up the moment she saw Chloe. The little girl could no longer contain her fear and threw herself into her arms, sobbing, "Mom, sister, I thought I'd never see you again." Seeing her daughter truly unharmed, Doris finally let out a sigh of relief. Wiping away tears of joy from her cheeks, she choked up and said, "Thank you, it's all thanks to you and, thank you." Chloe smiled with genuine warmth. "It's me who should thank you. Thank you for giving me the warmth of family in this foreign land." 3 days later, Beth was discharged from the hospital. Adrian returned to his home country. His wound was far from the heart, but it had still injured his lungs, requiring him to return home for proper rest. Before leaving on the private jet, Adrian pleaded with Chloe to see him off. Chloe was combing Beth's hair and remained silent for a long time, refusing to agree. "There's too much between us. We shouldn't have continued in the first place." Adrian knew he had been terribly wrong. "Take good care of yourself." Adrian whispered his final reminder before his assistant wheeled him away. Half a year later, Anthony received an extreme tsunami warning in the waters where he was working. "Hurry, we need to get out of here now." Anthony looked extremely pale. This was Chloe's first time seeing him so tense. Their neighborhood was very close to the coastline. In previous years, there had been similar tsunami-like disasters, but each time, it was enough to just stay indoors temporarily. Never before had they seen Anthony with such a panicked expression. "Hurry, grab the important documents. There's been an undersea earthquake 20 kilometers away. We must reach higher ground within half an hour." Hearing this, Doris and Chloe asked no further questions. They hurried home to gather their documents. Then the group drove straight to the shelter. "I thought hiding in the shelter with food and water for 2 days would be enough, but I never expected the tsunami to be this strong." Not only did it destroy the infrastructure, but it also brought nearly a full day and night of extreme stormy weather. The water level just wouldn't recede, the food was gradually running out, and the rescuers hadn't arrived in time to save them. In their moment of despair, Adrian arrived just in time with a helicopter. "Chloe." The roar of the helicopter brought a glimmer of hope for survival amidst the raging storm. Chloe had no idea how he had found her. "Adrian, thank you." In the face of natural disasters, dwelling on romantic entanglements would have seemed petty and narrow-minded. With Adrian joining in, everyone trapped on the top floor of the shelter was evacuated. Through the airplane window, Chloe saw the vast submerged neighborhoods, her heart filled with mixed emotions. She had been here for nearly a year and had already grown attached to the place, thanks to the Broderick family's connections. They parked directly at the downtown hotel adjacent to the terrain handover site. After a day and night of fear, Doris held Beth tightly as they fell into a deep sleep. Anthony had gone to support the rescue efforts halfway through the journey. After a hot shower, Chloe relaxed as she dried her hair with a towel. Adrian walked in from the balcony after finishing his call. They exchanged glances, countless words caught in their throats, yet neither knew where to begin. Chloe murmured another thank you. Adrian smiled. "They're your family. This time, I won't let them get hurt again." His voice was hoarse and very soft. Chloe only then noticed he was abnormally thin, and the hat on his head had never been taken off. "You're sick," Chloe stated matter-of-factly. Adrian lowered his eyes with a bitter smile. "Maybe it's retribution for all the bad things I've done. When I got injured half a year ago, they found shadows in my stomach during the checkup. By the time I went back for chemotherapy, it was already late-stage gastric cancer. But I still want to live a little longer, to see you a little more. He turned his head and quickly wiped away his tears. "Thankfully I'm still alive, so I could save you this time. But from now on, You'll have to rely on yourself, Chloe." Chloe didn't know what to say. After a moment's thought, she took out a protective talisman from her pocket and placed it around his neck. "Made it when hiding from the tsunami, it's yours now." She didn't want to say anything superstitious. Between the two of them, there would always be two lives standing in the way. Adrian had red-rimmed eyes, his hand trembling uncontrollably as it clutched the protective talisman. At last, his voice choked with sobs amidst the howling wind. "If I hadn't made that mistake, would everything have been different?" Chloe didn't answer him. What's done is done, and there's no turning back. 1 month later, Adrian passed away in the hospital. After his death, it was announced that his personal fortune of hundreds of billions would be donated entirely to charity in the name of his late wife, Chloe. Additionally, it will directly provide one-on-one assistance to tens of thousands of impoverished students in mountainous areas to continue their education. In addition, he requested that his remains be donated to medical science. "This is my last chance to atone to my wife." These were his final words to the world. A year later, Anthony fell in love with a girl vacationing in New Zealand, and the two got married. Anthony chose to settle back in the country with the girl. Coincidentally, Beth was about to start elementary school. Chloe took Doris and the whole family back for a long-term stay. Doris left home at 20 and is now nearly 60 before returning to her homeland. Meanwhile, Chloe returned to start a business under the identity of Anna. At the age of 40, Chloe rang the Nasdaq bell as the wealthiest woman in Pine City. Facing the media's questions, she smiled with gentle grace. "I already have a very happy and complete family. For the rest of my life, I choose to love only myself." The end.